Right, so the two-state solution, the decades-long plan that the West has wanted to see in Israel and Palestine has, by this most right-wing of Israeli governments ever, finally poured the scorn on it. The decades of inaction on this idea that a lot of us have already surmised that Israel really had towards it. Israel have kept Palestine under occupation, kept treating them as less than human, kept settling their lands in complete opposition to the idea of two separate states. And now at last Israel have admitted it, with a smile on their face in the case of the madman Netanyahu, who has now proudly boasted of having blocked the idea for the last 30 years, of which 20 of those he's mostly been the Prime Minister. A blatant admission of Islamophobia as that can only be construed. After all, if denying Israel the right to exist is deemed by these same people to be antisemitic, how can it not be Islamophobic to deny a majority Muslim state like Palestine a statehood as well? How can that not be equally racist in return? Well, all of this makes life difficult for your average Zionist, of course, who now has to justify Israel's right to exist, whilst Israel considers Palestine's right to exist as little more than a technical oversight. The UK ambassador, Zippy Hotovelli, has also come out and binned the idea of the two-state solution, triggering a petition to have her expelled from the country. The UK official position still wishing to see that two-state solution. But with Keir Starmer, that Zionist without qualification, keeping his head down on the matter, unable to comment until someone else does first, shamelessly unable to lead as he is, the Labour Muslim network is not accepting that, and has penned a letter to Starmer making very clear what they, as a Labour affiliate body, expect from him now on this matter, starting with some actual leadership for once. Right, so the Labour Muslim network have been critical. They've been a very critical body of Keir Starmer for some time, and it's not like he doesn't give them justifiable excuses for that. Just this year, they demanded Keir Starmer deal with the blue Tory, who defected to Starmer's red Tories, Christian Wakeford. Welcome to open arms he was, because the broad church is the Labour Party. So welcome home for ex-Tories, just not for socialists, who they like to treat like scum, of course, we know that. Well, Wakeford was pictured with Gene Simmons of Kiss earlier this year, despite Islamophobic comments having historically been made by that musician. Now, the Labour Muslim network wrote to both Wakeford and Starmer about that, and were ignored. But have been a rotten lefty, though, eh? Another example was Starmer's advocation of war crimes to be committed by Israel against Palestine, of course, including the withdrawal of food, water and power, saying Israel had the right to do that. He can pretend he never did say that. It was caught on film. We all heard it with our own ears. We know he said it. Various Muslim councillors resigned from the Labour Party at that point, and the Labour Muslim network again demanded a retraction and an apology from Starmer, and, well, they're still waiting. But most recently, of course, Labour MP Andy MacDonald was suspended for saying something he never actually did. All he actually wanted was that two-state solution enacted for peace and liberty and self-determination for Palestinian people. Everything we're calling for now. But his words got twisted at the time. Claims he meant something else, saw him get suspended, and despite the Labour Muslim network once again calling this out, nothing has changed. So we have a Labour affiliate representing Muslims in the Labour Party getting repeatedly ignored. That doesn't mean they're going to stop making demands of Starmer or his regime to pay attention to them, to respect the Muslim membership, but it is little wonder the party is considered more Islamophobic than ever when you see examples like this. But once more, they have called Starmer out to act, and this time it is in response to the despicable comments made on Sky News last weekend by the rancid right-winger Zippy Hotovelli, the UK ambassador for Israel. An ongoing embarrassment, frankly, that she still stands on British soil following these comments, where she angrily referred to the notion of the two-state solution as a media obsession after saying she doesn't believe it can be possible and doesn't believe in it. And her answer to the question, should Palestine have a state of its own, was absolutely no. Now, Netanyahu's comments that actually followed revealed that it has always been an excuse to ensure the West just backed off Israel and what they were doing and continued to ignore what they were getting up to in Gaza and the West Bank. She's also on record as having called the Nakba a lie, saying that all the land of Palestine is Israel's, again an earlier demonstration of her anti-two-state solution beliefs, and believes segregation is important so that mixed marriages cannot happen. Well, now the Labour Muslim network have demanded Starmer call out Hotovelli, which puts him in a bit of a bind, because she's his kind of politician, the kind he's happy to be seen with and photographed with, and that does count for something. That matters, when he makes such a song and dance about who he won't be seen with. Like Jeremy Corbyn, just as the first example off the top of my head. He has nothing to do with Corbyn based on false allegations of anti-Semitism, but an apparent Islamophobe like Hotovelli as only someone denying the right for Palestine to exist, the flip side of the coin to the existence of Israel, can be called, surely. Formerly part of a government working to deny the existence of Palestine as she was, part of Netanyahu's government, now rubbishing the thought of the two-state solution itself. The statement by the Labour Muslim Network reads, Dear Sir Keir Starmer, Israel's ambassador to the UK, Zippy Hotovely, has made clear in the last week that Israel will never accept a Palestinian state. In a Sky News interview seen all across the country, Ms Hotovely was asked clearly whether an independent Palestinian state could exist in the future, and she answered without equivocation, the answer is absolutely no. The right of self-determination for Palestinians and an independent Palestinian state has been a long-standing position for the Labour Party, for the United Kingdom, and for the international community. To deny the rights of Palestine to exist as an independent state is not only an extremist position, but also completely contrary to international consensus. Furthermore, denying the rights of self-determination to Palestinians and millions of Muslims is clearly Islamophobic. There is a worrying trend of senior Israeli officials and members of the government Ms Hotovely represents making statements that are genocidal in nature towards the Palestinian people. Associating with such individuals or endorsing their views in any way is not only Islamophobic and morally reprehensible, but also poses significant risk to the Labour Party's integrity and our commitments to human rights and international law. We are therefore writing to you as leader of the Labour Party with the expectation that no further engagements be made or platforms shared by Labour representatives with the current Israeli ambassador, Zippy Hotovely. It is clear for all to see the ambassador is no partner to peace. Any Labour representatives that shares engagements and or platforms with Ms Hotovely would not only be legitimising her extreme positions, but could also be violating our Islamophobia code of conduct. We hope this can be communicated to all Labour MPs, councillors and elected officials. Kind regards, Labour Muslim Network. So Hotovely is Islamophobic according to the Labour Muslim Network, and anyone sharing a platform with her will be endorsing Islamophobia due to their denial that there should ever be a Palestinian state. I agree with that completely, and it should be obvious, quite frankly. I have argued long and hard on multiple videos as to why criticising the state of Israel cannot be a racist endeavour, but given it is the Jewish state, that it is a majority Jewish state, then criticism of its right to exist ends up being antisemitic and called that. But saying Palestine has no right to exist itself, a majority Muslim state as that is, then that has to be racist too by exactly the same measure. All racism should be condemned equally. We know this isn't the case in Labour. Their own complaints page on their website has a bespoke complaints page for anti-Semitism, but not for any other form of racism. So we know that Starmer's Labour consider it more important. That is itself racist, surely. Having called Starmer out to address Hotovely for her comments here and now, though, anyone from Labour seen in Hotovely's company can justifiably be called Islamophobic by association. Do I expect Starmer to listen to the Labour Muslim Network this time? No, because he hasn't bothered before. But now we know what they've said, we can hold Labour to account for its very real racism going forwards, real racism, should anyone unwisely be seen with Hotovely, and not the nonsense that has been weaponised in the past against others just for purely political reasons. Like Andy MacDonald, as mentioned previously, for daring to take a pro-Palestine stance in Labour, and this video will tell you exactly what Starmer did to him for something he never actually said, and I will hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.